Greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night right here at the SPORTSKRIB. A lot of things to talk about tonight, as usual, in the sports world. Talk a little Olympics while they're still on. And of course, more controversies. I see Reggie and Don is in the queue, so let's get this show on the road. Mr. Hayes, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing good, James.
All right. Hey, and you're right on time. We can hear you today. Good, great. Reggie,
What's going on, fellas? Always good, man. Always good. Always a pleasure. Good to be on with you guys.
All right, man. I got a good little panel here tonight. You and Don to get things started. Me and Bill did a show last week, and of course, I guess I could. You guys could go back and look at some of the things that we talked about, including probably a deeper insight into the Olympics, talking about Simone Biles and that. We could talk about Simone Biles today also, but I think there's a very important question that we should all ask. And I know by starting out this show with this question, and Don being here, we just start out with cribbing after dark, period. So, so guys, here's my controversial question for the week. You know, I always try to come up with one. We have a Algerian boxer that is probably going to get a gold in the welterweight division, women's welterweight division, and her name is Imani Khalif. Now, let's talk about the controversy surrounding this Algerian boxer. Now, Khalif was born with an extremely rare condition, being born an hermaphrodite, which means that she has both sexes present. This is unusual from a transsexual, which is born one sex and surgically is transformed into another sex. Now, this particular person was raised as a female, but because of this condition, has both gametes in her test. Now, she has been banned in some quarters. I believe it was the International Boxing Federation, the IBF, that banned her, as well as the other, I believe she's a nationalist Chinese boxer. But I haven't looked as much into her condition. So, Don, what's your thoughts here? Advantage or disadvantage?
Well, it's definitely an advantage if you're fighting in a women's division and your primary
gametes.
Yeah, it's testosterone. I mean, she's got more testosterone than she does estrogen, I believe.
Right.
So if that's the case, yeah, that's a big advantage because testosterone is what gives you your strength and endurance. So that's definitely an unequal matching. However, in her defense, or his defense, whatever the case may be, I don't think she willingly took extra testosterone. It's not like she was blood doping. You know what I'm saying? She's not taking testosterone. It's just that's her natural makeup. So the fact that she was raised as a female has never tried to tell anyone she was something other than that. I'm gonna take her side as performing as a female, which might come as a shock to y'all.
Definitely comes as a shock to me. Reggie, go ahead, Reg.
I'm gonna kind of co-sign. I'm gonna co-sign what Don said only because I'm not a doctor myself. I'm not testing this person. I'm not speaking. I'd be completely ignorant speaking of this situation. It'll be what I read or what I read. I feel like as far as the Olympic people who are in charge of the Olympics have a better feel about this than I would. I mean, are they testing her blood, or are they looking for these hormones in there? I'm not sure exactly what they're doing to try to make sure that these things are as fair as they can be. But I'm going to just err on the side of that. Like, I just don't know enough to be 100% honest with you. I'm not there with this person. I've not followed this person at all until now, until this controversy. So I don't even have the prerequisite amount of knowledge to kind of jump in and say one way or the other. And so I think I'm just going to go with Don here. I'm just going to err on the side of what's going on there right now, but I don't really know if this was a trans situation where the person was like a male, trying to become a male, or situations like, I feel like you wade into those waters a little bit more than what this situation appears to be more of an outlier than some of the others I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that, well, once again, I'm going to show my age, but, this is something that, we had never seen in my generation, but we used to tease people, if they looked, one way or another. I mean, so when you start talking about these different origins here, and this is something that was natural. I mean, we've had some that decided to become men, and there was a controversy on the other side. So I'm kind of surprised at the reaction of both of you, and I do commend you for kind of erring on the side of caution. So even I, who usually has my black socks on, have decided at least they're stripes. I'm not gonna say that they're black, but they're striped. Anyway. So yeah.
Hey, James.
Yes.
James.
Go ahead, Don.
James.
I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you remember in the 70s and even in the early 80s, before the end of the Cold War, when the East Germans were always having that controversy? Are they having men dressed as women? I remember that vaguely.
Yeah.
Every time the East German team came on, it's like, whoa, in basketball, weightlifting was
and I mean, all of the sports. I think you
track and field
had
business, like the East German women were like definitely on some testosterone.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was the hammer thrower in particular. Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the field events.
Yeah. So yeah, but and it was later on. You could see the labs where they were bringing these people in, and I mean, it was blood doping for sure.
Wow.
But moving on, another controversy. We had Simone Biles win silver, and Miss Chiles won the bronze. But when the gold medal winner came up on the podium, both Americans bowed to her. Now, I thought it was a great show of sportsmanship because we all know that Simone Biles had a calf injury, and yet and still she was able to gain a silver medal. And I thought, silly me, thinking of sportsmanship, I thought, that the other two gymnasts was giving propers to the gold medalists. However, it seems like the Ravens cornerback Marlon Humphrey had a problem with that. and he called their performance on the podium disgusting. Now, like I said, many of us thought that this was one of the greatest moments and one of the greatest pictures to come from the Olympics so far. Well, since I was disappointed by Don the first time, I'm going to go to Reggie this time. Reggie, Reggie, what's your thoughts here?
I nothing to see here. I feel like I like the Ravens, and I'm a fan of Marlon Humphrey. He's definitely a better team when he plays, but I think sometimes you get reminders of how much your point of view is irrelevant, and that's what his point of view here is. Your point of view is irrelevant. It is an amazing picture, and it's an amazing picture that's going to live up forever in Olympic annals, not your tweet about it or your X post about it or whatever opinion you gave on it. People aren't going to look at that and give a damn about it at the end of the day. They're going to look at that picture because it is a marvelous picture. It's the gymnast from Brazil, I think Andrade. I forgot her name, but she's an excellent gymnast. They're all kind of peers. These people see each other all the time. They don't just see each other once every 4 years. They're usually competing. They know each other. And I think it's an amazing picture by her and I think it was Jordan Childs.
Yes.
Her and Jordan Childs. Yeah. So Biles and Jordan Childs. And plus, if you want to win, you got to know how to lose as well. And this just showed that Simone Biles is a consummate champion. She goes out there and she puts up W's, but she doesn't sit there and hang her head and cry when she doesn't get to the top of the podium. So I feel like it shows Americans how to win with grace and how to lose with grace. You know, it's not. And who is Marlon Humphrey at the end of the day? Or is anybody losing any sleep over things that Marlon Humphrey says in general?
Don?
Well, I think it was a very classy move by the two Americans, and those who are criticized, they just need to stay in their lane and worry about what they're going to be doing on the field in a few weeks. I thought Simone Biles has been very gracious in winning, and if she doesn't win, she gets second place or third, whatever. She's been very gracious as well. So she's the epitome of sportsmanship, and I just think that was kind of a cool thing. I mean, now that's also something that females will do. You'll never see males doing that, but that's neither here nor there. But I think it's nice. It's Olympic spirit in practice.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree with everyone here. Great picture, a great show of sportsmanship.
Excellent picture.
And yes, an excellent picture. If that
Yes.
photographer wasn't known before, he'll certainly be known now. Last week, I mentioned that Ocho Cinco and Shannon Sharp said that they would give any track and field athlete that won they said track. I had a field. They said track athlete that got a gold medal, they would give 25 G's. Shannon Sharp said that if they broke a world record, he would kick in an extra 50 G's. Well, right now we have Noah Lyles. He, for the first time in 20 years, has become the U.S. sprinter to get the gold in 100 meters. Which we haven't dominated, since Bob Hayes. But anyway, is it just me, or does Sha'Carri Richardson seem to come up small on her biggest occasions? So right now we have Shannon Sharp on 25 G's to Noah Lyles. He also owes 25 G's to the gentleman that won the 400 meters. If you want to look at that race, that was a great comeback. So he's out about 50 G's right now. No world records have been broken so far that I know of. But gentlemen, you want to talk about Lyles finally breaking the 20-year barrier and becoming the U.S. Olympic 100-meter champ. And Shikari, Don, you might not know a lot about Shikari, but Reggie, what's your thoughts on that? And then we'll go to Don.
On Shikari?
Well, both.
And I know on both subjects.
Yes.
Okay. On Noah Lyles winning the 100, I've kind of expected from how he's been trending over the last year or two. He's been trending up in competition. So I wouldn't say it's expected. Let me not say that, but let's just say it's not a surprise. It did. I wasn't shocking to me that Noah Lyles. What was shocking to me was seeing that it's been 20 years. I didn't know it's been that long.
2004.
I thought we had won something since 2004. So that's, that was a pretty much shocking part about it.
Yeah. No, we won something, but we've never
it's
won
not the gold.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to remember, Usain Bolt had that.
Yeah, he had it locked down for a while.
Yeah.
I congrats to Noah bringing home the gold here. I was shocking it had been that long, but I'm glad he did break that. He did break that streak. Now, the Sha'Carri Richardson situation is a little bit more interesting. I don't know if it's coming up small because what did she get? A silver in she silvered, right? And one, she had one medal.
Yeah.
Silver, I don't know if I would call silver coming up small. These races are often decided by like a 1/10 of a second, or they're such a small, and these athletes work all their lives for these moments.
But remember now, she didn't even qualify for the 200.
That's true. And I think that if anything, that would be where this question kind of has more validity, right? Because you would think that if with all the noise, James, that you would at least qualify. So I get you there of feeling that maybe she underperformed a little bit. I'm just happy she made it. I felt like her being eliminated for the marijuana situation last time was a farce. I felt like she should have been able to go out there and compete. But rules are rules, and it is what it is. So shout out to her for at least getting to the Olympics and bringing home a medal. But I can see where you're coming from. We're thinking that she would have performed a little bit better.
Don, what's your thoughts there?
Oh, I thought I think if professional athletes in other sports want to dish out money to Olympians, I think that's great. I'm all for it. I'm kind of shocked, like Reggie, that I didn't realize it's been 20 years since we won a gold in the men's 100. That's in the United States, we're used to like dominate. That was our event, kind of like be like
1, 2, 3.
yeah. Be like if Australia had won the gold medal in basketball or something, some country. So the fact that we kind of reclaimed our crown, that's a great look for us.
Mr. Carroll, welcome.
Yes, hello there. I am attempting to multitask. I'm also in the midst of a drafting one of my dynasty leagues. So if I check my
I need
phone,
to see when our draft is. As a matter of fact, I need to know when that is for us on our ESPN leagues here.
I think I set a date already, and
I gotta look at it and see.
Yeah, I think we're missing 2 people, and I have to find replacements. But Bill, we're talking about the 20-year drought in the gold medal that Noah Lyles finally won. And in fact, it was so close that the announcer even got the winner wrong. What do you think about the Sha'Carri Richardson situation?
Okay, well, 2 things. One, other people can run fast. For those who had somehow forgotten, Jamaica is full of really fast human beings. If you ever decide just to like race a random child in Jamaica, you're probably going to get embarrassed. Just putting that out. Yeah, just pick like any 12-year-old Jamaican, try to race them, and then tell me what happens. Okay. Despite the fact that Jamaica doesn't have the resources or the population density or size or all that stuff that we have, there's just people who can flat out go in Jamaica. If someone gave me like $180 million and said, build me a machine that will funnel wide receivers and defensive backs in the NFL, I would build a football academy in Jamaica and one in Haiti, right? And just watch it happen.
Haiti.
Haiti. Have you ever raced someone in Haiti? You're gonna get smoked. I'm telling you now.
I feel like you might want to let a few things blow over there, Bill. Like before that, the Jamaica's all good. I think you can run that, right?
Sapu Esyan. Shout out to my Haitian friends. And people like to bag on Haiti. Haiti is like any other place, like Detroit or New York or whatever. You have to know where to go and where not to go. But I will say this much: it is actually a beautiful country. The people there are super friendly, except for the kidnappings. And
well,
you have to take the good with the bad.
yeah,
The food is amazing.
yeah.
Other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the theater? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, hey,
Well, except for that, Mrs. Kitty. How was your? But
it's like going to Tijuana. It's to watch a fight. It's okay unless the American loses.
Yeah.
It is no longer. We no longer just show up and finish 1, 2, 3. And frankly, that's the way it should be. The rest of the world is full of fast people, and we get reminded of that. I mean, we're not going to see another Usain Bolt for a while, people. I'd like to remind you, this guy is damn near 6'5" and 200 pounds.
Yes, very
And
tall
he
guy for
ran
sure.
9.58. Do you know that I can't skateboard on a downward incline 9.58 at 100 meters? I was an 800 meter guy. I wanted to be like everybody. I wanted to run the 100. I don't think I ever broke 11 seconds. I got below 11.2 a couple of times. People don't realize how fast 9.58 is. And then you look at the size of Usain Bolt. People say, oh, yeah, Randy Moss is a super freak. We're talking about somebody who's basically slightly larger than Randy Moss. Randy Moss, on the best day of his life, maybe in the 100 meters, if he just stopped playing football for 2.5, 3 years and trained, maybe get to 10.2 something in the 100 meters. Maybe. He ran 9.58. I don't think people quite understand how ridiculous that is. We may not see that again for a while. That's crazy. So, yes, there are fast people other places. It's no longer our birthright to just win the 100 meters. And I'm fine with that. Go out and earn it. And we did. Shout out to Noah Lyles, who's a DMV kid. But to Sha'Carri Richardson, it just drives me crazy that people somehow think finishing with an Olympic gold is silver is a disappointment. Like, what the hell kind of world do we live in? I mean, I know Ricky Bobby said if you're not first or last, I get it, but do you know, once again, what a top tier elite freak show athlete you have to be with all the pressure on you, not in your home country, right? In France, with all the pressure that some of it's self-generated, but all the pressure that's on her in particular, and to go out and still get a silver. None of us will ever come anywhere close in whatever field of endeavor we ever enter to being what she is. I'm not about to take shots at somebody who's 1,000 times better at what she does than what I am at what I do. It just is silly.
All right. Good understanding there. So let's move on now to college football. And we're going to talk about Demetrius' favorite person. Demetrius is traveling. He said this is hopefully his last week, and he'll be
For a while. Yeah.
But it seems that Jim Harbaugh said he was not aware of any University of Michigan violations.
Yeah.
However, the NCAA has said that they're punishing him for unethical conduct, and he basically has a 4-year suspension.
From
Now,
what?
Paul Feinbaum says that he thought that Harbaugh should get an Emmy for his response to that question. Don, what did you think about Jim Harbaugh and the situation at Michigan?
Looks like Don stepped away.
Well, you can start, Reggie.
I think it's classic Jim Harbaugh. Wasn't me. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you got to catch me, bro. I'm sorry. I'm not there no more. Like, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be here for week 1 with all the cameras on me in my NFL life, following me around, and not giving a damn about what you think. So shout out to Jim Harbaugh doing what Jim Harbaugh has done for years. This is very Jim Harbaugh-ish and just more Jim Harbaugh stuff, in my opinion.
Bill?
Well, so here's what I will say. There's an old saying that if you close the barn door, but the horse has already escaped, what have you really done? It is fun to hear Jim Harbaugh react to this. So, I mean, what would have to happen for this punishment to really have any bite to it, right? They'd have to first get him to voluntarily leave the job he's taken, where he makes $1 gazillion, go back to Michigan for, I guess, a day or whatever it is, so he could receive his punishment. Sort of like when guys retire, with the team that drafted them for a day, they could be like, we are now make you by fiat, right? The coach of Michigan for a day so we can punish you. That would be fun to watch at least. I guess the NCAA enjoys theater of the absurd, right? In case you've forgotten. So it gives us the chance to all circle around and watch the NCAA do what it does. Until they finally lick this whole time travel thing, they will not be able to really make much out of this, but it is fun to hear about. Whee!
Don, what did you think about the Jim Harbaugh situation, his response, and once again, does the NCAA really have any bite?
They have no bite. So Jim Harbaugh, and let me tell you about him. I love the guy. I love what he did at Michigan. I love the way he approaches his players. I love the way he coaches. However, I also know that as much as I like him, I also know that he has some character flaws, if that makes sense. But Jim Harbaugh did what he set out to do. He ended Ohio State's dominance in Michigan. He's beat them 3 years in a row. He has his national title. And he doesn't have to. I mean, next time he goes back to Michigan, they'll probably throw him a parade. They don't care what the NCAA says. So, he's going to be enshrined in the NFL for the next few years. And he actually never has to work another day in his life. So he's
mission complete for Harbaugh, basically.
Yeah, he got spend his remaining days on the golf course. He didn't give a shit what the NCAA says. So
right.
I
don't know if he cared when he was there. I don't know if he cared what they said.
Okay. Don, I want you to start this one here. Mainly because your team is now joining the SEC, but we have an SEC analyst, Chris During, and he revealed his top 5 SEC wide receivers of the last decade, the last 10 years. And Don, this was his list. Number 5 was A.J. Brown from Ole Miss. Number 4 was Justin Jefferson from LSU. Number 3 was Amari Cooper from the Tide. Number 2 was Jamar Chase, another LSU, Joe Burrow's target. And number 1 was Devontae Smith, also from the Tide. Don, what do you think? Do you have someone that you think should be in the top 5, somebody that should be eliminated, or are you good with this list?
I'm good with that. And that just tells me that the type of recruiting that Alabama, LSU did, to have 4 of the top 5 in that era. So I think that's just, phenomenal. With the top 3, you could rearrange those and still be correct, if that makes sense. Amari Cooper, come on. He could be number 1 or 2. So I have no problem with that list. The thing about list is, you get 10 people come to the list, you'll come to 10 different, rankings. But I have no problem with that list. It's, to me, it's legit as any other list.
Reggie.
Whenever there's a tide, person at the front. There will be no arguments for me about the list and the list order. I love that my boy Devontae's here. And as I look over this list here with Devontae, Jamar, Amari, Justin, and AJ, I'm going to say I do feel like Devontae was pretty good. But I think that maybe the separator is, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the only Heisman. He won the Heisman that year, right? He won the Heisman one of the years. So he looks like he'd be the only Heisman winning receiver on this list. These other guys didn't win a Heisman, right? Like you didn't get one from Brown or Jefferson or Cooper or Chase.
No, why would you?
If there's any kind of if you use any kind of microscopic distinction to separate one from the rest of these guys, maybe winning that Heisman would be that separation. So I have no problem here with the list. It's an SEC list. You know, if this was expanded to league wide, I think their competition gets a lot stiffer. But I don't have any issues with this.
Yeah,
Devontae Smith, an excellent player. Jamar Chase. I love all the guys on this list. I have no issue here.
Yeah, this is just SEC wide receivers, no one else. Bill, what do you think about this list?
I have a problem with Brian Edwards, who outproduced some of those guys with worse quarterbacking not being mentioned. I think there's a bit of a bias towards the better programs and guys who have better NFL careers. But if you just get super bored, look at what Brian Edwards did in his career in South Carolina with quarterbacks who, are like the who's who of who for the most part. Not guys that ended up being drafted in the first round or drafted at all in some cases. And Brian Edwards went out against superior competition and produced year after year after year. That's the only real knock I have. There's other guys I would throw in there, but I'm not going to, pick too many nits. It's impossible to argue with Devontae's career. He set a bunch of records at Alabama. So when you set a bunch of season records and career records at Alabama, you're kind of doing something. I just wish that I understand there's always going to be a bias towards Alabama, and that's okay. I've adjusted to it. I've been watching football for 50 plus years. I just have to accept it now. But Brian Edwards outproduced about 3 or 4 of those guys with, just look at the name of some of the dudes that he had to catch balls from. And tell me, as good as some of those guys were, they could have put up those numbers with some of the, future like international paper account executives that Brian Edwards was playing with.
Okay, all right. Bill, the Dogs, the Buckeyes, the Ducks, the Longhorns, and the Crimson Tide top the coaches poll so far in the preseason. And do you agree with the top 5? And do you think that this early dominance of the SEC and the big, however many it is, will continue?
Well, the Big Infinity and the SEC should have 3 or so of the top 5 spots. But what will happen this year, as it does every year, is people are going to utterly sleep on some team. I don't know, Clemson, somebody that people have just decided to forget about, will end up being way better than people think. And they'll be like, oh, who saw this coming? There'll be, some, I won't say surprise, because, Clemson's not exactly some dark horse, really, but somebody like that, some team that people just sort of decided to forget about will end up being better than they think. So you said it was Georgia,
Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama.
So once again, one of those teams will get hit with a bunch of key injuries at the wrong time in the season and lose, 2 games, right? And then some team that nobody's talking about will run the table or have a 1-loss season and fight their way into that top 5. So, pick one. Oregon, somebody gets hit with a bunch of injuries. So the thing that we always have to remind ourselves is, unlike, say, NBA basketball, where you can fairly accurately figure out who's going to be the best 4 or 5 teams almost every year, there's going to be at least 1 or 2, I would say at least 1 surprise team in the top 5. If you go back through historically 30, 40 years, you can usually see that same pattern repeat. Some team that people didn't exactly see coming ends up in that top 4, top 5. I'm not sure who yet, right? Don't put me. But
Well,
I'm going to come with someone.
as we get closer to the opening,
I'll figure out somebody. Yeah, I'll have to think about it more.
This
But
is
there'll be
just
somebody once he comes.
this is just a preseason poll, so we still
Yeah,
have
some Big 12 team or something will end up getting super hot and run the table.
Reggie. You agree with Bill, or are you gonna stick with this top 5?
I feel the same way about preseason polls as I feel about preseason
Remember, we
games.
have, isn't it 12? Is it 12 thing this to start this year, not just the 4?
Yeah, you're gonna get you'll get more. We'll get an actual playoff situation, but these, I mean, it's like preseason games. I don't put much stock in preseason games. I don't put much stock in preseason polls.
Don.
I agree, and to what Reggie's saying, but and even to what Bill was saying about injuries, Texas yesterday lost their number 1 running back, C.J. Baxter.
Oh man,
Boy,
he was the number 2 running back in his class.
And Jonathan Brooks last year. What's going on, man? What are they doing?
Yeah, but the guy they had him coming in is a guy named Jaden Blue.
Oh, I'm very familiar with Jaden Blue.
Yeah, he's the number 2 running back in his class, and the guy behind him is a guy named Jared Gibson, who was the number 2 guy. He's a true freshman out of Florida. Jared Gibson was at IMG Academy, but he went from 4th string to 3rd string. So the depth in the Texas Longhorn running back room is very deep.
Is Baxter gone for the year?
Yeah, C.J. Baxter, he tore his ACL.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man. Goodness.
Yeah, they put on the pads yesterday, and they said 30 minutes in practice he went down.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunate. Great kid, but you know what? Hey, Starks, he's got that running back room ready to go. So learn on the fly.
Yes, exactly. He had better.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little NFL now. We've had our first game of the season, the Hall of Fame game. I didn't see a lot of starters, which we expected, but we did get a look at the new kickoff rules. Don, I know every time a football goes in the air, you watch it. So what was your take on the new kickoff rules?
I didn't watch.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Don, you must say a company. Something. Well, what happened?
Yeah, I didn't watch the game. I know that the rule, as I understood it, as it came out, I didn't like it. So I didn't have to see it not to like it, if that makes sense.
That's very funny.
Boy. See, now that's the second time in one show that you surprised me now. So, yeah.
We're not even. We're just barely 30 minutes into the show too. So get ready.
There's still more time.
But
More surprises.
Oh, Reggie, did you watch the game?
I did, because I'm a fiend for football, and I felt like I had to, as a gravitational pull, to watch this thing. Like, you think it's a Hall of Fame game where you pretty much got just a bunch of dudes out there playing that you're going to see on Hard Knocks more than you'll ever see on the field, and they're out there playing. But it's interesting to watch it because, I mean, I guess I'm just a sports junkie. I kind of have to question myself here. Why was I watching that game? Like, I have no reason to be watching that game, but I was there and I did watch it. The kickoff rule was entertaining to watch. I need to see more of it to really get a feel for it. I don't have enough of a sample size. I need to see more than what I saw. And plus, these games are glorified walkthroughs with pads. They're not really, you know what I mean? Like, you can't really get a feel for any of the new rules in these preseason situations. It's hard to.
Well, the preseason starts for real for us. I think who do we start with? They're already the Texans, isn't it? Aren't they already in Cleveland? I believe practicing for the game against the Steelers. I believe they are. I think it's the Texans that we're playing.
That'd be interesting. See if anybody actually plays.
So I don't know the script too much. I have a question, and Bill probably knows it. So it's my understanding that this new rule, you can only kick an onside kick. Did they establish a new parameter on that?
So the things that have changed is one, where the players who are blocking and the players who are covering the kick are allowed to be. Also, you're not allowed to overload on one side of the line, like, where it would be like, we're going right or going left, and you're all right. From back in my day, no, you got to pretty much stay balanced on equal sides of the kicker, even on onside kick or whatever it is. There's a landing zone or whatever for the ball can come down. I'll be honest, for those that already know, my entire contribution pretty much is on special teams. I can count on both hands with fingers left over the number of plays I played in my high school and college career that were not on special teams. So this was my major contribution. Yes, Dave. Lane 3 or L3, which is left three left from the kicker on kickoff return. I gunned on punt return. I was on PAT block and punt block. So if your special teams questions, you've come to the right place. We will see more returns. So if you like returns, you'll see more of them. Plus, since people don't know how to either block or tackle yet, you're going to see some early in the season. I don't know if if you are one of those degenerate gamblers, but bet the over on return yardage in some of those early season games. People have not quite figured it out, and special teams coaches are burning the midnight oil trying to figure this thing out. What else to know? So where they experimented for last year with having, if a ball wasn't returned, it coming out to the 25, they've gotten rid of that. So they're trying to push up the number of returns, but make them safer. Because they're trying to reduce the amount of terminal velocity collisions, right? In my day, you got to build up a really good head of steam and then slam into someone full on, and then go take a math test. And so they decided maybe that wasn't the best idea. So they've taken away the ability to get that running start. You're basically coming from a standing start as the ball is kicked, and you're only allowed to, and because the kickoff area isn't as far back, you're not building up as much speed. So their assumption is they're going to reduce the number of high-speed collisions, and with that, concussions. I like things about it because I hated the return game basically being reduced to almost nothing. Like, that killed me. I know it may not bother everybody, but once again, it's an old special team where I thought it was awful. That there were guys who used to justify their existence in the NFL. The Hank Bowers, the Leslie Speedy Duncans, Steve Tasker. There's a list of. If you want to ever talk to me about the special teams, non-kicker special teams,
Devin Hester get into the Hall of Fame, right? Devin Hester does Devin Hester get into the Hall of Fame with a rule like this? I don't know.
Oh, he wouldn't smell the Hall of Fame with a rule like this. At least not yet. Like I said, these are smart guys, special teams coaches. They'll figure out a way to pop big returns with this, but they're still. This is the first of all, for once again, those who haven't done much special teams, at the pro level, live special teams practices are really rare nowadays.
Yeah, nowadays.
Right, they're very rare nowadays. Live, full on live, full go special teams practices are actually rather rare nowadays. Special team practices don't go as long as a whole other show, but you were always as a special teams coordinator fighting for time, right? Even in the old days, in the 70s and 80s, you were fighting for time. Now with the reduction in contact practices and practices as a whole, you're doing a lot of sort of walking through and here, watch this, and here's where you would stand. And now you add to it, this is, once again, everyone's a virgin. Nobody knows how this stuff works in terms of the new rule. So you're going to see some like yakety sacks funny moments a couple of times this year where people forget that you can't do certain things anymore. Because imagine you're like a veteran special teams guy. You've been doing this 11 years. And they're like, everything you learned is wrong, right? And people forget how much your body is conditioned when you play football that long to do the thing you do the way you do it. And they say, now do it completely differently. Woo. like I said, if you're a degenerate gambler, bet the over on some return yardage totals in some early season games because people don't know how to even cover these things now.
Yeah, this is true. Reggie, bigger expectations this season: Caleb Williams or C.J. Stroud?
So I feel like my answer here might be different from some fans' answer. My answer is gonna be C.J. Stroud because no matter who the human being is, as watching the NFL as long as I have, no matter who the human being is, I don't have elevated expectations for quarterbacks year one. I don't care what your name is. I just don't have them. I don't have them. You can come out look like Peyton Manning and be terrible the first year and then be great after. Like you just don't. I need to see these guys for 2 to 3 years, and that's why C.J. Stroud is more important to me because he's entering that second year. So now I get a chance to see like, okay, so now teams have a whole year of film on you. They have a whole year of tape on you. Let's see if you can have a second year like you had the first. Once I see these quarterbacks have a second and third year, oh, you're a guy now. You're a guy because they've got tape on you. They know what you're going to do. Then they cannot stop you. Kind of like a Lamar Jackson type. You're like, no matter what, you know what he's going to do. You just can't stop the guy. And C.J. Stroud may be that guy. Caleb Williams, even if Caleb Williams had a year like C.J. Stroud had last year, I still would be questioning if he can have it again next year. So C.J. Stroud is kind of in that process for me. So I'm looking more to C.J. Stroud to see if it's get confirmation of what I saw last year than expecting Caleb Williams to put the Bears on his back and be their new Sid Luckman and run them into prosperity there somehow. Like I don't know I don't have low expectations. I just don't have no expectations for Caleb Williams.
Don.
I have to agree with Reggie. My expectations of Caleb Williams is for him to probably be the next RG3 in NFL. Stroud, I think Stroud's got a great future ahead of him, so I'll go with that.
Bill, in one breath.
I mean, CJ's Coach Bernard Stroud IV is a rare, and I mean rare. He's the exception that proves the rule, right? To be that good that early on it shouldn't happen. It's not supposed to happen. And it is not fair for several reasons to expect that same kind of season from Caleb. I think he will be the best quarterback the Bears have had in quite a long amount of time. I think he's going to be more efficient, but similar in volume to some of the years we got out of Cutler, but with the extra added bonus about 850 rushing yards, right? Which I don't know if Cutler had 850 rushing yards in his career. So you're going to get my guess is about 3,745 or so passing yards, and like I said, about 850 or so rushing yards. So he's going to have a great season by Bears standards, particularly a great season. But Stroud might go for 5,000 yards passing. Like he is on a trajectory we rarely see. It is hard to overstate how difficult it is to be that good as a rookie quarterback, especially on a team that, well, before you got there at least, wasn't expected to do all that much. But the pieces are all there, right? The stars are aligning. That is a young team, particularly on offense, a young team. And because of young, cheap, right? That's the thing that you care about. Young equals cheap in the NFL. So if your best several receivers are between the ages of 25 and 22, which I believe their top 3 receivers in targets were all between the ages of 25 and 22, their best running backs are all rookie deal guys. I can't remember who their number 1 tight end is off the top of my head, but I think he's young too, if memory serves it correctly. So most of the guys touching the ball on offense are under 26. That's what you want when you're building a team. As I said, like that's how you can be like executive of the year, right? If all your best players on one side of the ball are 26 and under, right? And then their defense just has to be solid. If they can do that, if their defense is solid and their offense is what I think it might be, they should be a team that has a legitimate shot at 12 wins. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah, they won 10 last year. So
right, I think 12 is very much achievable. I think
Okay.
8 wins is more like the high water mark for the Bears, which still is improvement, right? I mean, that's still better than where they were.
Yeah, I think
So
what did they win? 5 last year or
I think it was
6?
5 last year, 5 or
Yeah,
6. So,
abysmal.
so
Bill, so we talked about quarterbacks. Let's talk about wide receivers. Most likely to get their deal done first, CeeDee Lamb or Jamar Chase?
well, now I won't be snarky or mean, because in the old days when you said, "Oh, there's a Bengals player up for a max contract," well, I guess that guy's about to have a long holdout in his future. But things have changed, right? The Bengals now are doing a better job of signing their best players and even holding on to some of their players into their second and third contracts, which didn't happen so often in the old days of the franchise. So shout out to the new front office in Cincinnati. I think that CeeDee Lamb wants to wait for all the other top receivers to do their deals. So,
Yeah, of course, yes, absolutely.
so to me, the smart money is on CD, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I don't think there's as much to be gained by Mr. Chase waiting, because I mean the Bengals will still pay him. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're going to set records. And I think Jerry Jones might go ahead and set a record. He might go ahead and make CD the highest paid wide receiver of all time.
Oh, okay. Don.
Those two, I would say Chase would probably be more like his deal done first.
Yep.
And a lot of the same reasons that Bill was saying. I think he's got that attitude of, I'm gonna get this done so I can go out and play some ball and catch some footballs and win some games. Some other players aren't so concerned about that. They're more worried about their income. So I'd say Jamar Chase.
Do you agree, Reggie, or are you going with CD?
I mean, it's hard to go with CD when I don't know what the hell Jerry's doing in Dallas. I just don't know what the hell they're doing there. They forgot some reason for some reason Dallas has forgotten they got to pay players. Like Jerry's gonna take this thing all the way till it's too late and overpay. That's what Jerry's going to do.
Nailed it.
He's gonna wait too late and he's going to overpay, and he's gonna do this times 3. You better choose somebody to pay, Jerry. Pay Micah, pay Dak, or pay CD. For the love of God, pay somebody, because you need to start the process. If you keep kicking this can down the road, this ticket is getting higher for you every single time somebody else gets signed. Your price just went up. So it's kind of like, from a performance standpoint, when it comes to Micah, Dak, and CD, these guys have to be paid. They've all performed. You're going to pay them, or somebody's going to. So I don't know what we're even really waiting on there in Dallas. So because of that alone, I would say that Jamar Chase gets paid first, just because Bengals don't seem to have these same kind of problems up there.
Okay. All right. I'm kind of like you guys, as we see more people get signed, the more it's going to cost Jerry. I still think it's Dak's last year in Dallas, unless they get to the Super Bowl. But we'll see.
A lot of teams that hope that's true. I'll tell you that. Dak's looking at over 2 when he leaves there. Dak's going to be in that 50 to 60 club.
Well, I asked a couple shows back, will Dak be the first $60 million guy? We'll see. Reggie, $1 million in fines and counting. Hassan Reddick seems to be rather serious about his holdout against the airplanes. Reggie, how is the airplanes defense without Hassan Reddick, and will he get paid?
Hassan Reddick played last year for the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
He did. This will be the first year. I will have to see who the Jets lost on defense, but they did okay without him last year. I mean, I feel like they'll be okay. I don't know what the holdout is about. I don't know if it's over length of contract. I'm not sure if it's over guaranteed money. So I'll have to look into the details to see who should buckle on what side. But I mean, nothing to see here. Another preseason and another holdout. I'm pretty sure it'll all get worked out. You know, they want to pay him and he wants the money. So those usually are the two things that you need when you need to get a deal done. So it might just be a matter of time.
Well, Don, the Jets went into this agreement with the eyes wide shut. They knew that Hassan Reddick wanted a new contract when they picked him up.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Don, what's your take on this Hassan Reddick holdout?
Well, that's all. That's all on the Jets front office right there. So I'm sure they'll come to some kind of agreement. I just hope that the word compromise is in both people's dictionaries. But I'm sure it'll get done. And like I said, the Jets front office, they knew what they were getting into, and so they need to kind of make it happen before too many. But before the season starts.
Bill, your thoughts?
Well, Hassan Reddick is essentially what they call a DPR, right? Designated pass rusher, and a really good one, right? Ask Brock Purdy. So he is a specialist, though, right? He's a guy that you're not going to use for everything because he doesn't do everything. But one thing he does really, really well. So it comes down to the Jets saying to themselves, can we get where we're going without this player? This is a player they wanted, right? They targeted him in free agency. They must have had a number in mind they wanted to pay him. And he wanted a number in mind that he wanted to be paid. And apparently there's a gap between these two numbers. Now, what you and I would say is, just find a number between those two numbers. Boom, problem solved. But agents have a job for a reason, because it clearly is not that simple, and they're going to have to hammer this out. My guess is this is going to go on for a while. It may not even happen until real football is being played. But at some point, he will sign and he'll get most, if not all, of what he wants. Is what my prediction is.
Okay. Bill, which quarterback leads his team deeper into the playoffs? And this is assuming they both make the playoffs. Dak Prescott or Josh Allen?
That's a funny question off top, like with the choices given there. I mean,
I'm going to surprise myself and everyone in the world by saying Dak for this reason only. I think the Bills run into some problems this year. I think the AFC East got tougher. I think they lost players the loss of those players are going to hurt them more than people think. I don't think people realize how much they needed some of those players that they did not bring back. And they're still going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going very far. I think they don't win a playoff game, and I think Dallas wins one.
Oh, my God. Dallas gets to round 2. Okay. Reggie.
I think Bill just broke news by even getting Dallas to the playoffs right there. Getting him like that. That's breaking news in Dallas. And you know what's funny is I kind of have to co-sign that point because you don't know what you don't know, right? And right now, I don't know what that wide receiver room looks like. What is it going to look like? I like Keon Coleman. I feel like he might be getting more targets in Buffalo than people think because who else is there now? They got rid of Gabe Davis and they got rid of Stephon Diggs. But I want to look at the targets amount between those two to see how many targets were vacated when those two individuals left. And I don't know who is going to replace them at this moment. So I kind of have to agree. Like if I had to look at the teams on paper, I like Dallas more right now than I like Buffalo on paper. I just don't know who Josh Allen's throwing the ball to there.
Don?
Yeah, so and I concur. Dallas has or Dak Prescott has a better supporting cast right now. What we do know is that Dallas will win games, but when it comes to the game they need to win, they'll find a way to botch it. But just with the roster, I think Dallas will go, further than the Bills.
Okay. Don, rumor has it that there's a disconnect between quarterback Justin Fields and his head coach. Don, Is Sirianni coaching for his job this season?
Possibly, I don't know. Justin Fields. If you look at his
I
history,
mean, Justin Hurts, or are we?
Jalen
you mean
Hurts.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen
Okay,
Hurts. Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
All right, because
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, see, Justin Fields just got there. He's out of here. All right, so
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts. Okay.
Jalen Hurts. He started off with the bang, right? And but after those first 2 seasons, it seems like it's getting harder and harder for him to put it all together. So, Jalen Hurts, he's a coach's kid. Everything I heard, he's well liked, but he needs to. I think he had some nagging injuries that he needs to recover from. But I would like to see him do well. But Philly has been kind of, from consider where they were like 2-3 years ago, they've really gone downhill. Actually, they lost to Dallas, which is remarkable. But I don't know if he's playing it, or if the coach is going to be losing his job. I don't know. We'll have to see. But if things continue, they'll be looking for new leadership eventually.
Bill, Sirianni hot seat or just a little warm?
I'm going to say he's going to be comfortably basting. Now, if they end up, a game or above or game below 500, then which are two very different things. The seat will very quickly, go from sort of like slow cooking to flames. Here's the thing about his situation. They're having a changeover in culture and leadership, right? The leader on offense, despite the fact that Hurts was the quarterback, everyone knew was Jason Kelce, right? Jason Kelce was one of the most respected players in the league. Forget on the team. If you had to name the 5 guys in the league that were most universally respected in football, if you asked 100 front office people and 100 players, not too many names would come up as many times. And I don't know if anybody not named Tom Brady would come up more times than Jason Kelce. He is universally respected. Opposition players, opposition coaches, everyone respected Jason Kelce. He commanded respect from everyone. And not having him, and Fletcher Cox was maybe not quite as universally respected, but was enormously respected on the team and on the defensive side of the ball. So this is a new team to some extent, even though they have a lot of the same players. When you lose players, when the Patriots didn't have Teddy Bruschi, right? When there's certain players that it changes everything about your team beyond what they do in terms of actual play. Guys like Rodney Harrison, guys like Teddy Bruschi, guys like Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. We mentioned Peyton Williams Manning earlier, right? That was a guy that was at one point the most respected, even more than Brady, crazily enough, was at one point the most respected player in the NFL. Certain players, when they're not there, everything changes. That team is now finding its footing again with much younger people being now the most respected players on the team, not guys in their mid-30s. I mean, think about how different that is when a 25-year-old chews you out versus when a 34-year-old chews you out and you're 28, right? It's a different feeling. I know you and I are both military. I was commissioned as an officer when I was 3 months, just 3 months past being legal to drink, right? I was 21 in 3 months. And so when I had to, run up on some, 29-year-old E5 and get in his face, we both sort of felt the awkwardness. And I promise you that Jalen Hurts is running into or has already run into some of those same situations. But I think he's having a much better year this year. All that to still say, I think that he learned some things. and the team learns some things. I think they'll be more strategic about how and when they run him. Note to the Buffalo Bills, I think they're going to be more strategic about how and when they run their quarterback, who they need to be healthy late in the season down the stretch. I think that their running game, which was once the best in the NFL, fell off the table, especially late in the season last year. When Philadelphia can't run the football, when Philadelphia wants to run the football, wow, right? I mean, that was one of those, what kind of, once again, as Don said, they lost to the Cowboys, at least in part because if you can't run the football against the Cowboys, now you're dropping back and throwing the ball all the time. Ooh, that's what the Cowboys dream of, right? So that plays right into the strengths of their team and away from the weaknesses of their team. I think that the running game will be back this year. I think that Hurts will play better. I think he will throw the ball less often but better. And I think they'll be, like I said, one, maybe 2 games better this year. And I think they will also win a playoff game this year.
But will Sirianni still be there? That was the question. Yes or no?
If they make the playoffs and win a game, I mean, while it's not impossible they fire him, I know that they're a little hair triggerish in Philly, but I would think that making the playoffs and winning a playoff game should keep you your job.
They still have a jail down in Philly Stadium. You never know. Anyway, kind of moving on here. Guys, I was going to ask Mr. Scott that question, but I think as a panel, we can answer this because this to me is kind of disturbing. After getting his money, now cautious Vikings wide receiver is so scared of re-injury. Now, the Vikings have also signed cornerback Moreau after losing cornerback Blackman to a torn ACL. But guys, especially, guys that have played sports, to me, the worst thing that you can do is go out and try to play the game afraid of being injured. If you're afraid of injury, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get injured. Now, maybe because the game has changed so much, I'm just, putting on my black socks and saying, hey, if you're scared, get your ass off the field. But, once again, like I said, the man has already got his bag. Don, what do you think about it? I mean, do you think that a player can play his best legitimately when he's scared of being re-injured? I mean, I'm just asking because this, this is a different territory for me. I never went out, played the game worrying about whether or not I was going to get injured. I guess that's why I got my face. But that was part of the game, the violence of the game. That's what if you got that ball or you got that interception, you wanted to run over that first guy, or it wasn't always about trying to make him miss like they do now, But Don, your thoughts here?
Well, I think it's funny that we're talking about playing not to get injured, playing scared. Can you imagine being in the 70s and 80s having to face like Lawrence Taylor and John Matuzak and Lalo Alzado and Lester Hayes, Jack Lambert? I mean, come on. So here's the thing: any sport, there's a risk of injury. I mean, you could rip a nail playing tiddlywinks. Come on. So, but you can't let that affect you. Mentally, you have to go out there and just say, I am not going to get hurt. I'm going to go hurt someone else. I'm going to inflict the pain on someone else. You have to have that attitude. If you don't have that attitude, well, first of all, you're not giving your teammates any rest because they're going balls out and you're holding back. If you play a sport like football long enough, or hockey, these collision sports, you're going to get injured. It's only a matter of time. I went, up until my my junior in college before I had the major injury, but eventually it will happen. So that Jim Morrison song, "No One Gets Out of Here Alive" or something like that.
Yes,
So
right.
yeah, so it's that attitude. You have to have it.
Reggie, what do you think?
I think that this, if I'm the Vikings organization, is the last thing I want to hear. Is what I'm thinking. Like I gave you what, 35 per annum. Is that close to what he's going to be making? 35 million. I'm already cautious about that because I have to give you 35 million and have you attached to a Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy. It's one thing to give you a 35 million and have you attached to a Tua or have you attached to somebody that has really about 4,000 yards a season on average. It's another thing to give somebody $35 million and have his productivity attached to an unknown. So you're already dealing with that as the Vikings. But now you hear this, and I kind of agree with what Don said. You're gonna, from what I hear athletes say, they can't be in their head. They just have to go out there and do it. They just got to go out there and play and be free of, if you're thinking about re-injury, a lot of athletes say that's when you are probably going to get injured. If you're kind of going half mat or you're going half speed or you're constantly thinking about injury. So I, from a human standpoint, I get what he's saying because it's a real situation. These guys go through rehab. It takes a long time to come back. And then think about all that. And then some of these guys go out there in one play, they're right back into another 12-month rehab. So it's kind of like, I get the human side of it, but the business side of me says this is just something I would wish that my guy that I'm giving $35 million a year to was not saying or feeling.
Bill, as Reggie said, you gave this guy almost $35 million annually. Would you have given him that if he had made this statement before he got paid?
If you are Justin Jefferson and can do what Justin Jefferson does, he would have to practically commit a hate crime before you wouldn't give him whatever the money is. So let me say this. A lot of times players say things artlessly. I mean, they get media training. That's better now than they used to be. But every once in a while, somebody gets up and it says exactly what they're thinking. But, and there's a whole, in the brilliant career of one David Chappelle, there's one of my favorites is when Keep It Real goes wrong. And this is one of those situations. He's saying what a lot of players think, but they don't say it this way. What he really means, he's going to probably, especially early on, be a little smarter about certain things. Will he fight for every single yard all the time? Maybe not. And he's not the only guy thinking this. He just made the mistake or whatever of saying it. It's funny, we rip athletes for giving, pre-planned, pre-packaged, workshopped answers, and then we jump on them for giving us the honesty. So I guess there's no pleasing us. But yes, he's saying what went through his mind in that moment, that he is realizing, as these young men realize, that he is mortal, right? And his whole business is his human body. And it is a fragile, fragile thing. And he tests its fragility, right, by playing American tackle gridiron football, where you find out what your body can take. If you ever wonder yourself, gosh, what can my body take? You found it. You found one of the ways to really test that. What exactly can your body do without breaking down on you? I don't think you will see him play differently. I think he's talking about his thought process. I think like almost every single one of the players you've ever seen play since you started watching football, when he gets out there, his instincts and training will take over and he'll be Justin Jefferson. But it's in the back of his mind. And he made the mistake of voicing what was in the back of his mind. And of course, we're going to rip it for him.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, it's one thing to think it. It's another thing when you start saying things out loud. Let's see. Wide receiver Rondell Moore was injured in practice the other day. And right now, they're teasing that Penix is going to start the first preseason game. Reports say that cornerback Clark Phillips III, backup quarterback Taylor Heineke, and Rondell Moore before he was hurt were having early signs of struggling in training camp. Reggie, what's going on? Was Rondell struggling, and what's going on there in Falcons training camp?
Well, Taylor Heineke, for one, he sees the writing on the wall. I think I really literally read an article that says Taylor Heineke sees the writing on the wall. Like that was really literally the headline for the article that I read. And it's true. They just drafted a guy at 8th. I mean, bro, what do you, and you just signed a guy for $100 million. What do you think? I mean, there's not really many expectations out of Taylor Heineke for me over here personally. So I'll go away with and even that with Rondell Moore, sometimes guys like, and I've seen this happen definitely with a lot of hometown fans, is you get a guy that gets signed from some other place and they feel like because they're on your team now, they're going to play above and beyond what they've ever played in their life. Like Rondell Moore is Rondell Moore when he's playing for Arizona, but when he comes to Atlanta, now he's Justin Jefferson. Like it doesn't really work like that, but you get a lot of fans who think it works like that. So they're super excited about Rondell Moore. I have muted excitement here. In my opinion, we have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. That's what we got. And then I got to see about these other guys. From a defense standpoint, Clark Phillips, I don't know if that's a huge loss. And I don't think that he's actually out of the game. He's just not performing well. Things can change for them as they kind of get into the game. And Michael Penix starting the first game, I hope so, because I want to watch it. I want to watch it. One of the things I thought, as great as a Falcons fan, when we did take Michael Penix, was if my starting quarterback's not playing, at least I have an exciting backup to watch. I got a guy I can sit there and get a glimpse of the future out there playing. So I'm hoping Michael Penix does play the first game.
Bill, what are you expecting out of Anthony Richardson this year?
One, as I sort of mentioned when I talked about Jalen Hurts, learning to find the sidelines or get down.
There we go.
Job one. That's like I would begin and end each practice with Anthony Richardson practicing getting down or running out of bounds. That's how I begin and end every practice session from now on if I'm the Colts. That's the first thing. Numero uno. That's at the top, circled with like stars around it. 2, I think that we will see continued improvement by their pass receiving core. They've got to figure out tight end, though. They have a truly perplexing tight end situation, and I would love to see them go out and maybe make a trade or do something to bring in at least one. It doesn't be amazing, but like solid veteran tight end. Your literal like middle of the market veteran tight end. Tyler Conklin. Like literally like.
Let's say you get a Dawson Knox down there or something like that. If they can get him up off of Buffalo, some guy that's just sitting behind another younger tight end.
There you go. That's a perfect catch. They got to figure out their safety situation also. As you may have heard, what happened in that safety room? So we'll see what happens there too. When they lost the kid from Cal, Daniel, that'll come back to me. Daniel, he was projected starter at safety, and he went down immediately, I guess, in OTAs. So they've got to do something also in their safety room. But I think they're a legitimate threat to win the South. Partially because the South is kind of a flat. The AFC, it's kind of everybody, I guess, has a legitimate shot to win, except maybe the Titans. But I like them slightly more than everyone else, but it's probably 10 wins will take it. I mean, so first team to 10 wins gets to win the AFC South, and they might be the first to 10.
Don, I know we always associate, I always want you to talk about the Texans and the Cowboys, but Don, does Kansas City three-peat?
Is Kansas City what?
Three-peat.
I think three-peat is one of the hardest things to do in any sports.
Absolutely.
But I like Kansas City's Chiefs. I like their chances. I mean, to me, I think the 49ers will probably be their opponent in the bowl. But when I look at the AFC, I really don't see a team that's going to be that roadblock to them. I would say that the Texans have as much as chance as anybody's been a dark horse to do that. But in the NFC, you can Detroit should be back in there somewhere. San Francisco. So, but I think the Chiefs have a very good chance of making that happen, and people will start talking more about Mahomes than they do Tom Brady nowadays. So that might be kind of fun to watch.
Okay. All right, guys. Wow. It's 7:21 and we're on our final thoughts already. Bill,
Wow.
start off. Give us your final thoughts.
So as was mentioned earlier, Marlon Humphrey had some sort of problem with so you would think that people would learn, to know what they don't know. But Marlon N. Humphrey, of course, himself the son of a great running back, Bobby Humphrey, who I still have scouting notes on Bobby Humphrey from his days as a player. Another one of those great feel-old moments for Bill. But
I think you got notes on the Apostle Paul.
he took for reasons I frankly still don't understand to Twitter/X and decided to opine about a sport that he, like most of us, knows something about once every 4 years. And what he should have said to himself is, what possibly could happen if I tweet this, right? Is this going to be helpful? Is this going to build, by the way I'm seen by the world? Is this going to enlighten the world? Is this helpful? Is this true? Is this going to bring people together, right? I don't know what his thought process was, but he decides to tweet out that it was, quote unquote, literally disgusting, right? Of all the words he could choose, he didn't say, I don't get it. He didn't say, as a competitor, I wouldn't have done that. No, he decides to go with literally disgusting. The kind of term we might use for like seeing a rat dragging a half-eaten piece of pizza across a roadway, right? He chooses that terminology of all things. And then later tweets out, I'm getting low-key cooked. Well, you're lucky it's just low-key. Luckily, you got off line of light, Marlon, if that's all it is, low-key cooked. The women involved, particularly Simone Biles, will go down in history probably as not just the greatest in their sport, but one of the greatest Olympic athletes of all time. Simone Biles will be remembered as one of the greatest Olympic athletes of all time, and deservedly so. Some of us here are old enough to remember when people will talk about a 19-year-old gymnast as, oh my God, right? How old? Like, you never see 19-year-old gymnasts. I remember Tracy Talavera competing in the 84 Olympics, and she was supposed to be on the 80 team, but we boycotted. And everyone was marveling at the fact she competed at a high level at her advanced age. And she was, I think, 3.5 years younger than Simone Biles. So that's the thing we have to remember, is that we're seeing something that in women's gymnastics, or gymnastics really, period, we've never seen before. Someone being that great for that long. It's like Jay-Z or Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, right? Where someone gets to be at the top of this thing where people usually get knocked off after a few years, and you keep being that good for that long. If she had decided to literally take off her, I almost said singlet, leotard, and swap with her like they do in soccer, I would have had nothing to say about it. If she just, whatever she decides to do, she can do. And then Jordan Childs, who is, if not for the fact that she's on the same team with Sunisa Lee and Simone Biles, we would recognize what an amazing gymnast she is too. But she's sort of like she's third on an amazing team. But she managed to get a bronze along with the team gold, and chose to recognize the outstanding Rebecca Andrade. One is from a country in Brazil that is not usually exactly a gymnastics powerhouse. So she has done something that is trailblazing. And Simone Biles sought to recognize this. Plus, it's a moment where on that podium, historically speaking, for the first time in Olympic history, all three of the women on that podium were of primarily African descent, right? For the first time in the history of the Olympics, it was three Black women, essentially, on that podium. To have someone now sort of try to overshadow this incredible piece of Olympic history, well, yeah, you deserve to be cooked, roasted, broasted, flash fried, pick a term. You had all that coming to you, Marlon, and more. It was a great time to be quiet and appreciate, and you chose not to. I am incredibly proud of all three of those women, what they accomplished. And I mean, we all played sports, but if you want to reach that level of elite level women's gymnastics, you have to make a decision about your lifestyle, about the age of 5 or 6. 7's too late. I mean, I'm not even joking when I say that. Somewhere between the ages of 3 and 6, you've got to decide to commit your life. Probably move away, right? Stop living with your folks for a while, go to some training center and live for 8 or 9 months out of the year and train twice a day for 2.5 or 3 hours each time, twice a day, 6 days out of the week. From the time you are barely in kindergarten or before you're in kindergarten until, in the case of Simone Biles, you're in your late 20s. No offense to Marlon and Humphrey. You're a tremendous athlete. You come from a line of athletes, but you have no idea what her life has been like. You can, as tough as you are doing what you're doing, you weren't doing what she did. You didn't have to move away. You didn't have, as hard as you've worked out, if you were to look at his body fat and her body fat, and he's got the advantage of being a genetic male, I bet they're pretty damn close together. Simone Biles' power to weight ratio is like a 1963 fuel-injected split-window Corvette coupe with a 375 horsepower engine. She is insanely powerful for someone that size. The things she does, the height she, I'll give her flowers some other time. The point is that Marlon Humphrey should have just been quiet.
Yeah, that was kind of the consensus that we all came to when I asked the question at the beginning of the one.
Right. Well, I was still coming on from a transition plan I had to do earlier, but yes, I wanted to make sure I weighed in on that. So, as the old Mark Twain quote is, "It is better to be thought a fool," was, but not just Mark Twain, lots of people said it, than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
I love that saying. Don, your final thoughts for the evening.
Okay, I have several.
We got time.
And most of them are Olympic related. So I'm going to give a shout out to my University of Texas Longhorns who came away with gold medals. We'll start off with golf. Scotty Scheffler. He's right now probably the number one golfer in the world, and he's won the Masters and U.S. Open. Well, now he has an Olympic gold medal to add to that, and to watch him on the podium, the emotion he had, it's really special. Then we got Ryan Krauser, who defended his gold medal performance in the shot put. Guy's 6'6", weighs about 320. He was recruited as an offensive lineman several years ago at UT, and he said, "I'm going straight track." He did a smart thing because all you got to do, a shoulder injury, which does happen, offensive lineman. So congratulations to him. Next person we'll talk about is Kevin Durant. They won, they're going to win the gold medal in basketball, and he became the all-time leading Olympic scorer in Olympic history in basketball. And he's a Kevin Durant UT guy. So good job, Longhorns. And the last person we'll talk about is a young lady, Julian Alfred. She's not an American. She is the fastest woman in the world. She's from the island of St. Lucia.
Yes.
Oh,
which
yeah.
has a
Excellent story
population.
there.
Yeah, has a population of about, I think, probably the size of San Marcos, Texas.
Yes.
Austin, Texas is a much bigger city than the population of St. Lucia. They'll probably first of all, she's the first medalist to come from that country, and the medal she won was gold. So, in those type of countries, that situation, they'll probably build a statue. They'll probably name a school after her, street named after her. She might run for prime minister. I think St. Lucia might be a Commonwealth of the British Empire. I'm not sure.
Yes.
So that's a good job. She's another Longhorn. And the other Olympian I want to talk about, and since we're after dark, is the young man from France, the pole vaulter, who was in contention for a medal. He cleared his height, and on the way down, his dick got in the way, and the bar fell.
Gotta tuck that thing, man. Gotta tuck it away.
And if you're going to lose a medal, that's the way you lose it. 'Cause your dick's too big. So
Don, we love Don.
and apparently he got offered several million by Pornhub
Yeah, man.
to show.
As I
his
say, it
junk
sparks
and
off another
whatever.
career.
I think-
Endorsement opportunities are endless there.
Yeah, a lesser men would take advantage of that. But, anyway, I just thought that has to be that's like a National Lampoon movie script right there.
It is in this moment I'm particularly missing the late Norm Macdonald because I'm
Yes.
just imagining what he could do with this moment.
It's hilarious.
I love Norm Macdonald. Yeah. So anyway, that's my final thoughts.
For those who are
excited.
wondering, the population of St. Lucia as of 2022, which their last census there, was 179,857 people.
Wow. Smaller than my county that I'm in
Yes.
right now. Goodness gracious.
I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and it's about half the population of Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Goodness.
Oh,
Yeah,
All right,
Austin's
Reg.
a lot bigger.
all right, Reg. I don't know if you can top the dickhead story, but
No, man, I'm not even going to attempt to try. You kidding me? I'm going to go a total different direction here. It was in keeping with the Olympic theme, though. Just giving a much thanks and appreciation to all the American athletes that have represented the country with professionalism in class in winning and losing. Despite what Marlon Humphrey has to say, he only speaks for himself, and he probably even wishes that he didn't speak for himself right now. So thanks, USA, USA, USA. That's it. That's all I got.
all right, guys. Well, hey, good talking with everybody this evening. Great show as always. Bill, I hope you fare much better in your dynasty league than you have been in the past years.
Wow.
But first of all, remember we have a fantasy show coming up.
Yes.
It will be August 24th. We have Mr. Christopher Houck will be joining us. If you guys don't know who he is, please look him up. He's one of the fantasy experts, and he will be joining us right after the fantasy football convention, which will be held in Boston. So that'll be the 24th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which I believe is 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So Reggie, if you get a chance, it's on a Saturday. You can get in and ask Mr. Houck any questions that you want. We do have one of our leagues is drafting on September 1st. So this show will be before all of our drafting. So guys, anyone that's ready to participate, come to the show. And I intend to take that championship shirt back from Demetrius. So anybody that's inclined, come on down. So, hey, great show tonight. Appreciate everybody turning out. And Reggie, will you be here next week or are you gone?
I got to check my schedule. I usually won't get it to about the weekend, so I'll let you know around that time.
Who's that you work? Did you work for events?
Yes, I work for an events company. You do all types of events, social. It's usually like social events where there's like weddings, conventions. When the NFL was here for the Super Bowl, we did a lot of Super Bowl events and stuff like that. So it's like all different kinds of things, but it's fun. But it's a late night biz, man, for sure.
Okay. Any thing you want to mention about your Braves before we get out of here?
I'm cautiously optimistic with the injuries that we incurred in the beginning of the season. So I usually have a rule: I don't really speak on the Braves till end of August or going into September. They're gonna do so they don't break my heart. So I'm going to stay cautiously optimistic, doing better than I thought with the injuries that we've had.
Bill, Chicago's losing streak ends at 21.
Hey, there you go. Here's what I will say about that. I thought they might have a shot to go for the record. It's always great when you have a chance to be part of history. The White Sox, it seems like not that long ago, you would see articles about in Baseball America, whatever, about how they had all this young talent who were all sort of coming together at the right place at the right time. And I'm reminded once again, one of the most difficult things on the planet Earth to do is to scout baseball players, right? We watch sort of I watched the NFL draft, as if my own life and the lives of everyone I love depended upon it. I kind of sort of watched the baseball draft. One, it goes on forever. You can't watch all of it unless you just don't have a job. And then two, I realized that like 2/3 of those guys will spend less than 3 years in the majors. Even in the first round, 2/3 of those guys are going to spend 3 years or less in the majors. It is fiendishly difficult to evaluate baseball players, especially since so many of them come straight from high school. You can watch 47, 6'5", 180-pound 18-year-olds mowed out everyone in high school, right? And have a 0.96 ERA. And now you have to figure out which one of them is going to be able to make the adjustment, which one's going to be able to develop his secondary pitches, which one's not going to blow out all of his ligaments in his elbow before he turns 24. Good luck to you. And I remember a kid on our baseball team when I was in high school named Brian Sipe, and I thought he was amazing. It was like watching a combination of like young Frank Thomas, young Jason Giambi, young Mo Vaughn. I mean, he was like this classic sort of super like swole kind of football playerish looking guy. He didn't play football. He's not for us. His first baseman in high school, he was probably about 220 pounds. But he looked bigger because in those days, 220 was big for high school. About 6'1", and he got drafted by the Expos. That tells you how long ago this was. And I don't know if he made it past Double-A, but he was unstoppable in high school. So, I recognize. I mean, I'm a football guy. I recognize I probably couldn't do it in baseball. I don't know how those guys do it. I tried doing it. I tried getting into watching a bunch of high school baseball players, and they all looked amazing. The guys that were supposed to be good all looked incredible. But how do you figure out which one is going to be able to carry it going on through maybe a year or two of college or into the minors? To this day, I have no idea how those guys do it. So all this to say, yeah, the White Sox are terrible. And the only good news is that they're mostly young and mostly inexpensive and terrible, which beats being expensive and terrible. Sure. Shout out to the Mets. Well, not right now. The Mets have righted the ship. But a couple of years ago, the Mets were like number 4 or 5 in payroll and awful. So at least they're
that
not. That
was like last year, the year before. It was recent memory.
Yeah.
That was very close.
Right. A couple of years ago, they were like number 4 or 5 or something in payroll and terrible. So at least they're not in that situation. That's the only thing worse is when you're expensive and awful. At least they're inexpensive and young and awful. They supposedly, if you listen to the right people, you listen to the bloggers and read Baseball America, supposedly they have some really talented young guys who just haven't put it all together yet. We'll see in a year or two if that's true or not. But I know enough to know I don't know, right? When I watch 18, 19-year-old baseball players, they all look incredible. They're all just destroying everybody that's put in front of them. And then, like I said, most of them never even do anything in the game.
Don, last thoughts, Rangers or Astros?
I'm going to go Rangers on this one.
I thought you was the Astros man.
Surprises all night.
I'm a
I'm
fan of
telling
both.
you.
But my paternal grandfather was a Rangers guy. He had like season tickets, and then my maternal grandfather was a Colt 44 guy, and the Colt 44s became
45.
the Astros. So when I was with one grandpa, I was an Astros fan. I was a Rangers fan, but they never played each other because they were in different leagues. But now I still cheer for both teams, but I think the Rangers are going to have a bit better season than the Astros this year.
Was your grandfather, your maternal grandfather, was a fan of Jimmy Wynn, the toy cannon? Remember him?
That's like early 70s, right?
No, 60s.
Goodness.
Okay.
He might have played into the early 70s, but his good years were all in the 60s. He was the first he was the first guy to take advantage of the sort of weird dimensions of where they originally played, the Colt 45s. And he was probably like 5'8", 5'9", and 155, 160, maybe 165. But he was a tremendous dead pull hitter. And he was probably one of the first really good members of the Colt 45s, because once again, in the old days, the old expansion draft and everything was not very kind to new franchises. So usually they were, like not quite the Mets, but they were bad when they first came out. But yeah, that was one of the first really good players. And of course, they drafted Joe Morgan, which I'm sure was painful for your maternal grandfather, and then allowed him to get away to Cincinnati, where he became a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We ended up covering baseball, Olympic track, and field, gymnastics. Great show tonight. Overall, appreciate everybody giving us their time. And hey, I look forward to talking to everybody next Wednesday. And as I said, don't forget our fantasy football show. So get it in. Reggie, you came close last year, but hey.
Yeah, I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna give it another go here.
All right, guys. Have a good
see you
night.
later, guys.
A great weekend, and see you all next week.
All right. Peace.
Good night.
Yes. He was with the Colt 45 from 63 to 70.